streets of Baku. Then a lot of teams brought upgrades. Red Bull too brought upgrades. So when the fast car is bringing upgrade, but it's to improve their car, to make their car faster. And what they really brought are the air ducts cowling on the radiator, and the effect of that is to improve the cooling of the car and gives it more aerodynamic effect. And in the picture you would see the difference between the old and the new, and it's just to make that car have more downforce, and the steeper the air that enters through that duct, the more cooling effect it gives to the car and makes the car a little bit more lower to the ground through the inlet of the cowling. My name is Oshifeso Oluwadamilare. I'm a mechanic. Welcome to Exxon F1, also known as Formula 1 Column Africa. Now to Ferrari. Ferrari brought simple upgrade, a lower drag rear wing to the race. That was the only update Ferrari brought, because they said they will be bringing more updates in Imola. We saw the effect in the qualifying, and it was great. Now to Mercedes. Now Mercedes brought in rear deflectors between the tire, the outer wall of the diffuser, to give them cleaner air at the rear. They also made some tweaks to their rear end plates to give it low drag, and also they made some little changes to the front suspension. I've always said you need to make changes, either to change the front suspension or to, they reprofile their front wishbone to improve the airflow to the floor. This will help them in having more downforce, and the car will have a low drag. But I think that will not improve their straight line speed, in which we later saw during the free practice and also the qualifying. Now Alpine, they brought a totally new floor. To increase the chances of competing in the midfield and being close to Mercedes, at least 100th of a second close to Mercedes. That is their main aim, And the McLaren team. Now, we were thinking McLaren will bring a new McLaren or whatever, but what they really brought was they brought updated floors, the airflow, to pressurize the airflow under the car. They also brought new floors, and they made some tweaks on their car. You can see the difference between the old floor and the new floor in the picture. It's a big update for them, and it is really to give them a leap forward, and I believe to give them a leap. That is that. And to the free practice, yes, in FP1 we saw a lot of improvement in the upgrades that the team brought. The Mercedes struggled in the free practice. They really struggled. Mercedes had brake issues. Hamilton had to go in first with his brake issue, and Baku is a place in which you need so much of brake. The electric brake was working, but the manual brake was not really giving Hamilton and Russell what they needed. So, and it's only one free practice. They need to maximize it. But they were able to get few runs in the practice, but they really struggled. The Mercedes really struggled in free practice. The Ferraris upgrade really worked. The tweaks they made in Melbourne, they saw how it improved their racing, so they only made new tweaks, and also that low drag rear wing they brought gave them straight line speed advantage, and they were able to be closer to the Red Bull. Aston Martin kept on impressing. In the free practice, Fernando Alonso impressed, Lance Stroll impressed. They were able to show that the Mercedes engine to be reckoned with is a good engine and is working fine. The McLaren came out shining. Norris really came out shining today. It shows that that flaw they brought has improved the car. They are very, very close. In the free practice, they were ahead of the Mercedes. The Aston Martin and the McLaren were way ahead of Mercedes. The two Alpines had issues. The Alpine of Pierre Gasly caught fire due to hydraulic leakage. It brought out a red flag during the session. For safety and precaution, they had to hold Ocon back in the garage to also look at his car. So the same thing that happened on Pierre Gasly's car would not happen on his car. So they didn't have much run in the free practice. The major highlights were the Red Bulls were shining all through the free practice. Ferraris were closer. The Aston Martins were closer. Now straight to where the action was. That is the qualifying. At the beginning of the Q1, there were red flags. Nick De Vries rammed his car into the wall. Nearly they came out again. Ocon clipped the wall. That was the second red flag. That ended their own sessions there. Although all through the qualifying, a lot of drivers clipped the wall, but they were able to control themselves. During the Q1, we saw the McLaren really showing their pace. The upgrades were working. The Aston Martin showing their pace. The upgrades were working. And the tweaks that Ferrari made them so fast that the Red Bull were afraid of their pace. both Leclerc, Verstappen, and Perez were really showing true pace, in which we knew the pole position was coming from either of the three of them. Now, the Q2, Mercedes was really struggled. They really struggled to qualify. Only one Mercedes was able to get into Q1 in 10th position. That was Hamilton. Today was the first time Logan Sargent was able to go into Q2 due to his teammates giving him the slipstream, get him out of Q1, and it was great for him to get into Q2 for the first time, especially in a street circuit like BAKU. The Mercedes, they need to change the floor of the car and the covering of the side to give that car more downforce. In Q3, Ferrari came up outstanding. Charles Leclerc really showed that he's a good one-pace runner. He gave it everything he could on that tight Azerbaijan street circuit. He really came up on top. He showed the Red Bull team that he is one of the best drivers. Charles was able to get his third straight pole in Azerbaijan BAKU. That was the first time a driver is getting 3 straight poles in Azerbaijan. And that was Ferrari's first pole this season. And for the Red Bull, Max Verstappen securing his first front row in Baku, which still shows that the Red Bulls are still a very fast car to reckon with. But I think if Ferrari can keep showing this kind of a pace and improve their car, not just on the one lap, on the long run, they are going to come up with Aston Martin to give Red Bull a run for their money. Carlos Sainz struggled in the same car that Charles Leclerc, his teammate, was able to thrive in. He came fourth, about 8 tenths behind the front runners. That's Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez. Coming in 5th position was the Mercedes that struggled in Q1 and Q2. The Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton coming 5th. The Aston Martin of Alonso will be starting right on Sunday beside Lewis Hamilton. Meanwhile, McLaren of Lando Norris will be starting behind Lewis Hamilton in 7th position. And the Alpha Tauri of Yuki Tsunoda to qualify into the Q3, coming 8th, starting alongside Lando Norris's McLaren. While in 9th is the Aston Martin's Lance Stroll. And in 10th, for the first time this season, McLaren's Oscar Piastri coming in 10th, qualifying in the first Q3 of the season. Tomorrow, we're expecting more fireworks. There'll be a one-lap shootout for the qualifying of the sprint race in the afternoon, so it's going to be great. There'll also be a sprint race in Miami next week, which makes it a lot tighter. Back-to-back sprint races. I love it. So watch out for our analysis tomorrow for the one-lap shootout of the sprint race and also the sprint race. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be great. Love you. Keep subscribing. Keep watching. Chill.